former law minister saying, do we really need governors? And I'm going to raise that tonight because joining me now is Saravanan, the DMK spokesperson, Sriram Panchu, senior advocate, Madras High Court, Sanjay Hegde, senior advocate at the Supreme Court, Narayanan Tirupati, state vice president, BJP Tamil Nadu, and Kiran Bedi, former Puducherry LG, who we spoke to a little while earlier. So all bases covered. Let's turn to each of our guests. Let's turn to you, Kiran Bedi, because you were governor of Puducherry. Governor RN Ravi first dismissed Senthil Balaji, then takes it back, while citing the sacking, says there was a central agency probe against the minister. Can a governor take such a moral stand when legally he doesn't have the powers? Do you believe that the governor did the right thing?
I think he's exercised an ethical and moral prerogative. Now, whether it is legal or not, let the legal pundits debate it. But I think here is a man who has exercised his moral and ethical power and situation. I think that's what he's done. And he's been brave enough to do this. He's been brave. Instead of asking what has compelled the governor to do this, we are asking why has he done it? He was bound by the aid and advice. Why has he done it? I'm asking you, under what circumstances has he done it? Why is the Indian Constitution giving a different set of standards for an elected representative? And why is the Indian Constitution? And why have we questioned it? We don't have an independent, you might just say, well, what can we do? I think this country needs an independent ombudsman because the political parties themselves don't have ombudsman in their own systems. If they had ombudsman, then why would they at least not have suspended him? Why could they not even have suspended him when he is being taken to task by the enforcement director and they have evidence against him? Otherwise, why would he go and get into judicial custody? Because judicial custody is done after whatever evidence you have, the courts have assessed it.
No, but what is Ms. Bedi, is the motive to clean up politics or is it political vendetta? That's the question. Are governors settling scores? I mean, is it the job of the governor to decide which minister to be sacked or not?
My friend, I think we are mistrusting now everybody. Problem is all trust. We don't trust EDs. We don't trust anybody of our own. We don't. But the question is, why should they be? They are both in public service. Elected representative and an appointed person. Both. But if the criminality, same kind of corruption allegations are against a public servant, he would have been suspended by now. But when it comes to an elected representative, he continues to be in government. And the chief minister does not dismiss him. The party does not disown him. And election commission doesn't come in. Courts looking at whether the governor had the power to do it. But people have elected him. People do not have an organized body which takes them to task except to vote him out after 5 years. Public memory being short. I think that's where we have probably gone very weak. We need to address this issue. What is it that, thank God, let's say, I think instead of wondering why has the government done it, the governor done it, I will say why wouldn't he? Why should he not? He is the one who actually swears them in. He is the head of the administration. He is the protector of the Constitution. As a lieutenant governor, I swore, I remember, to protect the integrity of the Constitution.
Interesting observations there, controversial, saying the governor has every right to, as guardian of the Constitution, to act against ministers. Mr. Saravanan of the DMK, you heard Kiran Bedi there, your response?
I think Madam Kiran Bedi is biased towards the office of the governor because we know what happened in Puducherry. Having said that, I think her views are against democracy. In a democracy, her views are unpalatable. So let's leave it there. And now let's come to the question of
unpalatable. Why are they unpalatable? She says if someone, according to her, has been arrested, is in judicial custody, faces serious charges of corruption, why should that person continue? If the chief minister is not willing to make him resign, the governor will do so.
Yes, Rajdeep, because we have done away with that convention long back. From 2014, how many BJP ministers are mired in criminal cases? Why none of them have been not shunned away? Why? So it is not practiced anywhere. Why do you ask the DMK alone to practice that?
So you're saying we are now in a world where ministers can function out of jails, that you can remain a minister without portfolio while in jail?
Rajdeep, he is not functioning. He is a minister without portfolio. See, for that we'll have to go to the situation where why the ED has arrested him after 10 long years. While ED alone now, the madam is asking, why don't you trust the ED? Will any sane man in our country trust the ED? Looking at their track record, how many opposition politicians they have hounded? They will leave the likes of Hemant Bishwa, Suvendu Adhikari, Mukul Roy, everybody else. We had a minister, MLA from Maharashtra saying, I'm having a good sleep at night. Why? Because I've joined BJP. I will not fear the ED.
Mr. Saravanan, your same party said that Senthil Balaji was corrupt when he was on the other side. That's the problem. When Senthil Balaji was in the AIDMK, you said he's corrupt, he should be sacked.
Yes, Rajdeep, I'll come to that. Just before that, I also want to bring in a point. The governor from the state of Tamil Nadu, Mr. Ravi, is projected as though he is a corruption crusader. That is not the truth. He is holding the files of all the ADMK ministers who are charged with corruption. He is not giving sanction to them. Is this how a corruption crusader acts? So why is he selectively attacking the DMK? Why is he wearing this mask of crusader of corruption against the DMK alone? If he thinks that he has the power, he should have carried on. Why is he listening to the Home Minister?
According to you, someone worthy of remaining a minister, given that you all ran a campaign against him in a cash for job scam, yes or no?
Now he has been arrested. The only reason why you are asking him to be sacked is that because he is in judicial custody. This judicial custody is out of political vendetta of the BJP. The ED is trying to run him ground. Now they were unsuccessful in the court. That is why they are using the office of the governor. This governor is a charlatan. He is not a corruption crusader. He is not acting in the interest of the people of Tamil Nadu.
You're claiming he's being used by the BJP to target the DMK government. Narayan Tirupati respond to that as State Vice President BJP Tamil Nadu. The BJP is using the governor's office to settle political scores. That is not the job of the Raj Bhavan.
No, see, it is very clear from Mr. Stalin's, the Chief Minister's response today that only because of the implementation of the Home Ministry's, advice, this has been put on hold. So how do you say that the BJP?
I'll tell you why. Because this seems a bizarre case then, where you act and then think. You act against, you put out a press release saying I'm sacking a particular minister, and then 4 hours later you have egg on your face, you have cross-contact, and then you say, okay, now I will consult the Attorney General because the centre has asked me to. What's going on? Are you telling me that the governor did this without consulting the Home Ministry?
Rajdeep, with due regards to you, the first question to me was about the central government. The second question was towards the governor. See, do we need governors? Yes, we need governors because the same person who accused Mr. Senthil Balaji as a thief, as a fraud, as a land grabber in 2017 or 18, the same person today as a chief minister is guarding him. That is why we need the governor. We need to understand this.
So the governor will act as a check on the chief minister in your view?
No.
What is the role of the governor? Then why has he put the order on hold? Clearly he crossed a constitutional line. He crossed a Lakshman Rekha.
Rajdeep, the governor has dismissed Mr. Senthil Balaji. We welcome it because Senthil Balaji is a person to be dismissed. I accept and I acknowledge what Mr. Stalin said in September 1, 2018. He had demanded the dismissal of Mr. Vijay Bhaskar. On that day, you can see in the tweets of Mr. Stalin also, he had demanded the dismissal of Vijay Bhaskar by the governor.
Okay.
So what?
So you're saying that Mr. Stalin had different rules when he was in the opposition, different rules now when he's in government. Mr. Saravanan, Narayanji, you have made your point. Yes, respond, Saravanan.
Yes. Yes, see, if we accept this analogy that the governors have the power to dismiss corrupt ministers, tomorrow if the president says, oh Mr. Amit Shah, I'm dismissing you, you're not able to maintain law and order in Manipur, will the BJP accept this? Will the BJP say yes? Because the powers of the president and the governor are the same. This is not how a democracy functions. And Dr. Ambedkar was very, very clear. He said the governor under the constitution has no functions which he can discharge by himself, no functions at all.
Okay.
This is what that remains. So let them not equate so many things that the governor has this power, governor has that power. What about Suvendu Adhikari?
Okay.
What about Hemant Bishwa? Was he not the most corrupt man according to Mr. Amit Shah few years back?
Okay.
Who is he now? He is the poster boy of BJP.
You know, Hama, I keep reiterating where you stand depends on where you sit in politics.
Exactly.
You say one thing in opposition, one thing in government. But I want to turn to the constitution. Sriram Panchu, Senior Advocate, Madras High Court. Are you also with Kapil Sibal, who was earlier on the show, that it's very clear the governor is a figurehead. He has no discretionary powers. We may all want a corrupt minister to be removed, not to be given even the ministerial perks of any kind, but that's a decision for the chief minister who's elected. Can an unelected governor take that decision?
Rajiv, Mr. Sibal is absolutely correct. Ever since Shamsher Singh's case in 1974, the governor has very limited powers. He's only a constitutional figurehead, except for those three powers of, asking person to be a chief minister, dissolving the house, and reconsidering bills. Other than that, he must act only on the aid and advice of his council of ministers, and that includes the appointment or dismissal of any minister. So the governor in this case is completely out of line as far as law is concerned. There is another dimension I want to pay attention to. If you have a governor who is a respected person, who comes into office with some stature, who conducts himself with moderation and restraint, doesn't court controversy, is above the fray, then there is a reservoir of respect for that person. And when such a governor, gives advice and caution, that advice and caution will be listened to respectfully by a chief minister and may well be acted upon. But that's not the case in Tamil Nadu, unfortunately. Governor Ravi has been on the warpath continuously with the state government. He walked out during the governor's address because the portions deleted by him relating to Dravidian ideology and tall state leaders like Ambedkar and Kamaraj, he didn't read those portions. And when Stalin corrected him, the governor walked out. A very unseemly act. He debunks Dravidian ideology. He wants to change the name of the state. When UPSC selectees meet him, he says if there's a dispute between state and center, choose the center. He withholds bills and says, if I withhold the bill is dead. So he's been on the warpath. And so if you have a good governor, the CM will heed his advice.
So you're saying the governor will be
but
judged by his track record?
But if you have somebody like the way Mr. Ravi's, yes.
Your governor will be judged by his track record?
Yes, by who he was before he came.
Right.
Yes,
and
exactly.
Let me
who
just...
he was and how does he conduct himself in office.
So his conduct is critical. Let me just for a moment
and that gives you a clue as to...
Sir, just hold on. Let me give some historical context to this. The historical context is quite simply this. And I want to play some old shots here. Archival footage. Indira Gandhi's time. She would dismiss governments routinely. President's rule was applied routinely in the 1970s. Governments were dismissed by Mrs. Gandhi. You had governors like Ram Lal who dismissed NTR. Remember, famously, NTR was dismissed in the 1980s. You've had governors like Bhutta Singh, who again were dismissed and elected government of Nitish Kumar. These are various instances. I'm just putting them out on screen. There are various instances where governors have either transgressed the basic rules, particularly during Indira Gandhi's time. Sanjay Hegde, when you recall those days, maybe people will say that, look, this has been a practice for years. Right from 1959, the first time a governor dismissed an elected left government of EMS Nambudripad, to Uttarakhand, where governor asked the Congress government to prove majority. Eventually, they went to the Supreme Court and the government was protected. Do you agree that governors have routinely, NTR most famously, have routinely dismissed it, and therefore do we need to relook at the role of governors? Is the problem with the very idea of governors in India at the moment?
Well, you see, governors are an important buckle in a quasi-federal system that India has. Each of the states is independent in its own domain, but is also subject to the overall control of the center. And that's where the governor comes in. But the governor or the president are mere constitutional figureheads. Like the English monarch, they reign, they do not rule. And all these instances that you cite were where the governors recommended to the center the dismissal of the state government, and the state government was dismissed. Now we are coming to a situation where an individual governor says about an individual minister, off with his head. That is not how the system functions. And like Mr. Saravanan said, can the President of India say that, for instance, the Wrestling Federation minister, these charges are grave? We do not think
no, he's the chief
Kiran
of the
Bedi's child.
Could he be removed as an MP? Tomorrow you're saying the President of India could tell Prime Minister Modi, remove Brij Bhushan Saran Singh because I think that he has crossed certain boundaries. That's what you're saying, without even informing the Prime Minister.
Yes, if she requests the Prime Minister, that is all right. But if without the Prime Minister giving her that advice, if she passes an order of removal, that would be void.
Okay, yeah,
Nothing that the governor does in a constitutional scheme can be without the advice of the cabinet.
Is part of the problem, Sriram Panchu, you mentioned the conduct of governors, is it because essentially they are political appointments and therefore they actually act at pleasure of whoever is the ruling party? I mentioned Indira Gandhi's time and I mentioned today's time. They act at the behest of the political party. Therefore I ask you, do we really need these governors? Do we really need governors who live in these large Raj Bhavans at taxpayers' expense?
Rajiv, it's there is no doubt that there are some functions that governors can play usefully, both ceremonial as well as constitutional to a limited extent. But the key question, as you're putting it, is who do we appoint as governors? Because that is determinative. Are we appointing respected, esteemed public figures? Or it's just politicians put out to graze, or a bureaucrat or a police officer who's done you a favor and you want to repay the favor? It all boils down to that. What is the quality of the individual we're appointing? You take a governor like Gopal Krishna Gandhi, you take a governor like T.N. Chaturvedi. They came from the service, but they're such excellent governors. And on the other hand, you have people who obviously do not measure up to office. So I think we need to look at how do we appoint these governors, what criteria, what standards, what guidelines, what methodology.
Mr. Panchu, Mr. RN Ravi was a distinguished IPS officer, as is Kiran Bedi. Are we saying that, how do we decide men and women of stature who should be appointed governors?
Yeah. So I
He
don't
had
want
both these
to
options. He had three options.
No.
He could have referred the matter to the Honorable President of India.
Ma'am, 1 minute. Yes, Mr. Panchu.
Yes, but so I'm making a general point that, and this is not about any particular individual, but generally I think the quality of governors in India deserves, leaves a lot to be desired. And we need to seriously look at that if we are going to retain that office.
Sanjay Hegde, you put up your hand. Who should be a governor? Who, according to you, is an ideal governor?
Sorry, Rajdeep, I missed that question. The internet dropped for a minute.
No, you wanted to respond to what Panchu said.
Yes.
Who should be an ideal governor?
An ideal governor should be somebody who is steeped in the constitution, who also will be friend, philosopher and guide to whoever is the government of that state, who does not have a personal axe to grind and who is not particularly beholden to people who appointed him. My suggestion was that, create a panel of people who are likely to be, who could be appointed as governors, and let the Chief Minister of the day choose. Let the Chief Minister of the day.
The Chief Minister will then will choose someone who is politically close to him. That's the problem.
No. Take academics. We almost had a dancer, Rukmani Devi Arundel, as President of India.
Right.
The point is that you have treated the governor's office as a sinecure for retired politicians or retired bureaucrats or sometimes retired judges. Do not treat that as a sinecure.
Okay.
Treat that as a holy responsibility.
Okay, I take your point, and I think that's a good point. I hope that message is going loud and clear out there. I appreciate all my guests joining me on that debate.